So we are now recording, and I'm gonna go to John Glazer. John Glazer is gonna give some opening remarks regarding what brought us together and why COVID is not, we're not here to talk about COVID. I mean, we're not health professionals, obviously, but COVID has brought to light some realities that go on in the world today. And so, John, go ahead, please.
Yeah, well, COVID's got many dimensions to it, and the health professionals have their work cut out for them. But one of the things that it has done is that it has created a space in public discourse to confront some of the most important questions that monetary reform weighs in on. An enormous need for benefits to keep people from losing their homes or running out of unemployment benefits. A gigantic spend has already taken place of government funds to intervene and try to hold the economy and the American life together while we endure all this. And that aspect of the COVID pandemic has opened up in our public discourse conversations about, well, where did we get $1 trillion for that? How is that possible? And then people remember things like, well, we finance wars without ever talking about where the money comes from. And right now, the impasse at Congress is you've got one side saying, I think maybe we spent too much and let's not spend anymore. And the other side saying, we got to spend more because that's the nature of the problem we face. And there are so many problems that we face where spending more and spending effectively is truly the only thing to do. And right now, because of the inequalities and peek under the covers that government spending programs have enabled the press and us all to take a look at in the response to the COVID crisis, that has created people talking to each other about where does this money come from and how can it be deployed in productive, effective ways. And I'm really interested in hearing everybody's thoughts about conversations like that are taking place in your world, in your community, and whether there's opportunity for monetary reform folks to weigh in intelligently on those conversations and seize the opportunity in public discourse to educate and promote and maybe advance the cause a little bit. So the advertisement for this coffee house was a general discussion about the COVID pandemic and monetary reform. And that's the connection as I see it. And I bet you that there are other connections that other folks see, and it'd be interesting to hear about them. So we're gonna break into small groups where we can share those stories and those insights and think about those opportunities for entering public discourse in a fruitful way and share those ideas with the general group. Mark?
Thanks, John. And also the COVID and MR connection is important because in Indianapolis, we're on lockdown, so you don't have anything else to do anyway, so you might as well sit around and talk to us for a couple hours. Everybody's locked in their houses, so it's a good time to learn new stuff and, plan for what the next move is. And so before we go into groups, I want to give you just a little bit of background for the new participants here, because it is very important that we have new participants. It's been a core of us doing this. Alliance was founded we're in our 3rd year of operation. A large portion of us came out of AMI is where we kind of all met at. It's at the American Monetary Institute conferences every year. And from those conferences, which were very academic in nature, a lot of us felt that we needed to do something that reached out to more regular folks that weren't professors and scholars and all this other stuff, because in a sense, they like to talk and they talk to each other. And no message was getting to common people who really move things on the ground. And so we wanted to start something else. And the founder of the AMI passed. And so it incited us to go ahead and do something different. And that's when we came up with the Alliance for Just Money. So we've been around We're present on Facebook. We're present on Twitter. I just signed up Harrison to help me with Facebook and Twitter. So hopefully you'll see us out there some more. If you are on Twitter, you can follow us at Alliance Just, and on Facebook at Alliance for Just Money. We post articles, we spread things about monetary reform, and the more people we get, the better. And we realize that while we're all a little older here, that having young people around, young people who are vibrant, young people who have passion about certain movements is crucial to what we're doing, and connecting monetary reform to those specific movements is what's going to really make the difference in this. And so a couple of campaigns that we currently have going on at the Alliance is we have a National Monetary Commission that we approved, which is a resolution to ask Congress to study the monetary system, because there are not enough facts out there about how our monetary system actually works. Is it a change? But first we have to start with stepping stone. Yes, we want the NEED Act, we want all that other stuff, but we want a fair, open conversation about what money is and what money can do and where money comes from. And so that's on our National Monetary Commission side. Once we get in the next few weeks and months, we plan on doing a social media campaign that pushes that one also. Virginia has a campaign called the How We Pay campaign. I'm gonna give Virginia about 30 seconds to talk about that. Then another one is we actually have a Spanish anthology coming out, which is has about 9 or 10 articles that have been translated into Spanish. And that was done because countries that have been considered third world countries or less developed countries have the most to gain from MR. It actually frees you from hegemony, and it frees you from the need for capitalistic investments in your countries, or in those countries, not necessarily in your countries. It has a lot to do with Black Lives Matter movement, which I've seen Alana has her shirt on. Issues that go on in everywhere from the Middle East to Brazil, to Africa, to all these other places that are not in what's known as the first world, or these groups that meet that are 7 or 8 of the largest powers, who actually control the monetary systems to a degree, but it benefits those countries the most. And so the anthology was put out to break those down, and our hope is to translate that into even other language. Because honestly, monetary reform should be a mass global movement with literally billions of people in the street. And once people know exactly what's going on and what the benefits can come out of it, we hope that that's where this will grow. So Virginia, in about 30 seconds, can you explain the How We Pay campaign? Unmute yourself, Virginia.
The How We Pay campaign started out last year when we published a short book. Mark Pash and I published a short book. The idea was to go nationwide on a road trip and really connect with people in communities and share, educate about money reform. And of course, we're sitting behind a computer right now. So I've switched to sort of a video campaign, and you can find it on howwepay.us. We have a couple of very short videos and then a little bit longer video that suggests a solution for now, which is creating a sample of just money, which would be 9 trillion in coins that could be used to pay for $2,000 a month for every adult and $1,000 for every child, and you could pay for healthcare with that and still have 700 billion to do other things with, and that is less than the Fed sluiced to the financial sector just between September 2019 and March 2020. So we can do it. We just have to shift people's thinking so they recognize there is a solution. So come to the site, look, watch the video, leave a comment, like it, and sign up so that you are notified of further videos. Thanks.
Share it and tweet it and all that other good stuff that young people do.
Yes.
So at this point in time, Bo, go ahead, Bo.
Virginia, can you put in the link in the chat so if people are interested, they can go there?
Okay. So at this point, we're going to break into smaller groups because having a conversation with 28 people is difficult. And we really want, especially the new participants, to ask questions. There are no dumb questions. The people who will lead, I will have lead one group, John Glazer will lead another group, and Mary Sanderson will lead another group. those of you who are have been around for years and are board members of the Alliance or whatever, what we want to do is really encourage the new participants to ask questions. When I first got into this stuff, there are always 1,000 questions to ask. How does this work? How does inflation affect this? What about this? What about even MMT or whatever else it is? Whatever you want to ask those questions. And we really want this to be an opportunity for you guys to participate, because we really want to see you guys back here again. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Bo and let her do her magic.
Thanks, Mark. So we are going into groups of 3. They are groups of 10 or less. You'll have about 45 minutes, and the leaders of the groups, Mark Young, John Glazer, and Mary Sanderson, will walk you through. So I'll give people a 5-minute warning, and then we'll come back here to debrief together. All right, so please join the breakout room now, please. Joe, Samina, you should have a window. You need to click join meeting.
Hi, yeah.
Hi, Samina.
Hi. It's my first time doing a breakout on Zoom. If you could just walk me through how to get to the breakout.
I've opened all the rooms, so there should have been a pop-up window.
Pop-up window.
Now, are you on a laptop or a tablet?
I'm on a laptop.
Mm.
Is there any way I can go somewhere and?
Oh, okay, wait a second. Hold on. So you are, okay, hold on. I will, okay. All right.
Okay. Join. Okay, I see something. Thank you.
Okay.
Join breakout.
Joe? Joe? Hello, Joe?
I'm starting now. Okay, well, I hope everybody had nice, fruitful discussions. We did. I think we had a great interaction and conversation to get to know each other a little better and where everybody is coming from. And so there were 3 groups. And so what we want to do is just have people kind of go over. Each group should have had like somebody report. It doesn't matter who it was. Can come back and just talk a little bit about what the discussion was about, and what you thought the high points of those breakout meetings were. We'll do that for a few minutes. Once that's done, then we'll have a couple of announcements, and we'll close out and we'll talk about where we go from here. So first, let's go to Mary's group. I don't know if you guys have somebody who can talk on your.
You know, we didn't assign anyone.
Okay.
But I would be very happy to let another person from our group do this summary if someone feels inclined to do so.
Somebody new, like a new participant, maybe?
That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
Would it? Who was in your group?
Well, we had Mark, we had David, we had Franz, and we had Virginia and John and Terrence.
Okay.
And Shazad.
And Shazad, but he took his picture away. That's why I didn't mention him. That was my mistake. Forgive me.
Okay, I'll give a shot at it. So,
Okay, thank you.
So here's a kind of a list of things that we talked about. We talked, the idea of debt forgiveness was brought up. We talked about that a bit. We talked about the international aspects of monetary reform. Is this a problem? Are there opportunities? Are there? So we explored that a little bit. And I think that was, in my view, that was an important conversation. But we haven't solved all the issues yet. Let's see, and we talked a little bit about the efforts that Mark has made in terms of approaching a congressman who's now running for office from Michigan with monetary reform as part of his platform. We talked more about this business, about the idea of the need for an immediate response to the pandemic situation in terms of funding, as Virginia has articulated, and the idea of the necessity of following that up with a systematic monetary reform. But the fact is that right now there isn't an opening. There's an opening because we're talking about different things. We're talking about $2 trillion bills. So there is a new opening to talk about these things that just wasn't there before. And a lot of us, like Mark, have had a really tough time approaching politicians in the past, but we think, well, now's the time to continue the effort because this is a possibility of a new opening. And we talked about the idea, the importance of a universal basic income, and the idea that Virginia's proposal with the $1 trillion coin to be able to do that is consistent with that idea. And that idea now has much more traction than it had, a year or two ago, in part because of Andrew Yang's talking about it, in part because the CARES Act threw a little bit to people in that way. We talked about the terminology of this effort. And one of the suggestions was brought up was the need to make sure we don't choose phrases that elicit an automatic negative response. And so one of the concerns was $9 trillion. That kind of gets a negative response because it's so big. But on the other hand, what Virginia was arguing is that, well, throw out the big ticket and people may not be able to get there all the way, but there's room for compromise, and so you might make some significant progress in that way anyway. So finally, I think the final thing we talked about was the idea of approaching this problem through lawsuits, and Bo-Young described the difficulty that approach had in Canada, but someone raised the issue that perhaps this organization, Just Money, is trying to do that. In our group, there was some skepticism raised as to whether the courts would ever take on such a thing because of the influences that are on courts. But nonetheless, it's another avenue. And I think one of the feelings is here, there's no one avenue that's going to guarantee success. We have to pursue various openings as they become available in different ways. So anyway, that was a good conversation that we have, and I appreciate the members of the group.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
On to John Glazer's group. Do you have a designee or?
Well, it will come as no surprise to anybody that everyone in the group volunteered Govert before he did himself.
Therefore, without further ado, I went to the notes that I made, and basically we got into 4 subject areas. One of which was only connected with COVID. So we started with talking about banks and COVID. The second one, we got into monetary theory, also for the sake of new people and trying to get us all on board or on the same page. We did a chunk of time, we talked about writing letters to publications. And the fourth one is contact academics one way or another. And we evaluated some people that we have contacts with or that we could have contacts with. So a little more about banks and COVID. What came up is that with this pandemic, what comes out is that there is a lack of balance of powers. Banks are just too powerful. That's what's coming out. At the same time, we got the problem that Republicans, you know, think we're spending already enough, so they stop spending, and that's going to get us into terrible economic crisis. We also heard from Will that probably the banks are doing this on purpose. So we'll get something of a big depression where people or banks can take a lot of our possessions, because, you know, if you get into debt, you'll part with your house, with your car, with your this and that for pennies on the dollar. On monetary theory, of course, you know, we have to educate. There's too much ignorance. Howard had a great phrase: bank money is usury on a massive institutionalized scale. And it should be the central political issue of these days. Lucia was talking about, you know, next generations will be settled with big debt if we keep the system going as it is now. So about writing letters, I think Jan brought up, like, you know, articles that were just published in The Guardian by their economist, house economist, and shouldn't we try to develop responses to those articles? She said that Frans Verhagen is doing already something like that. Howard shared the story with Krugman when he got the Nobel Prize, that Lyotard asked him, well, do you know who creates the money? And that Krugman said, well, don't go there, it will ruin your career. Lucille was, and here we get into practical stuff, get teams responding to money matters in a timely way. That if you have maybe 2 people here in the United States that will keep track of the New York Times, 2 people to some other, to the Washington Post, etc., and have them, you know, do some responding. I thought that we, you know, there's something to that, absolutely. The fourth part that we talked about is also pretty practical. You know, find out who might be, which economists or social scientists might be into monetary reform. I had to observe that a lot of economists, because of their training, are not into it. You know, they're just, I don't know, they're conditioned not to go to the right theory. Right. But then it's a lot of social scientists who will be on board. And then actually we got 2 scientists with us on board, Tim DiMuzio and Richard Robbins. And it was also then the idea, you know, that we would have an inventory of people for our movement to call upon. And that would be maybe the same persons, you know, to get feedback on articles that we write or blogs that we write. I shared my Richard Wolff story, which I will not do here, and we talked a little bit about, you know, also contacting Marxists and you know, publications like the Monthly Review, people like Chomsky, Democracy Now! So far, we don't have much success with that, but it's still something that you know, you never know with whom you can have a breakthrough. As we had with I think Richard Robinson, who we should use more, I think, for all kinds of projects. All right, that's it about group 2, guys.
All right, thanks, Albert. Appreciate it. And my group, Miss Alania Moore, is going to recap our discussions, which actually were quite different from your discussions, which is kind of cool. Go ahead.
Yeah.
All right, hello everyone. I don't know, this was a pretty exciting group. You guys missed out getting over into group 3. Well, we started the conversation Omar was bringing up, and please correct me if I'm wrong because I'm new to this, but blockchain system and how it ties to to monetary reform. He then just started to discuss how money is backed, and it's backed by the people versus commodities like gold and silver. We then shifted into the goal of the alliance. And the goal, as Mark described it, was basically on educating, right? And educating people. And so Omar also shared with us his ideas around currency tax and money supply based on a number of people. Then we started to shift. So I guess the majority of our conversation fit this theme. Is there an opportunity to educate and promote discourse on monetary reform? And so we shifted towards, if a conversation around if this is for the people, then it should be people should be able to understand it and understand the system in order to fix this system, right? And so Mark shared with me one of his, and thank you, Harrison, for posting it so I can see the picture, how to fix the future, because I had a question around, there is a shameless plug, I had a picture around, I had a question, how can an organization like the Alliance for Monetary Reform remove the heavy language that causes fear to, causes people to fear engaging in conversation and learning? And we had a deeper discussion around, well, maybe it's fixed that way so people don't learn about money, right? And so, and I guess it helped me to understand that what we should do to shift the mindset to promote buy-in into a different way of thinking about the money system and how we go about it. And so Jerome Slow, did I say that correctly? Okay, thank you. He gave us some insight on the banks and the use of coin. I guess it was a pushback in a sense to that idea. That's how I took it, and maybe, but it was very insightful, and I really appreciate that. So if you want to know his pushback on that idea, reach out to him. It was a lot. But I mean, again, this was really, really cool conversation. It was really, as we say, dope. And but I think the biggest piece that I gained from it was the impact, right? And money being the root cause of many of our issues, regardless of background, regardless of community, money being that central root cause to why monetary reform is important and why this discourse should happen.
Thanks, Ilana. Appreciate it. Good job. So we have exactly 6 minutes left, and we're going to be on time. And so we have a couple of announcements. First of all, thank you guys all for coming. We really, really do appreciate it. Harrison has put a lot of good questions in the chat. Just some questions about who to contact and stuff like that. But this conversation doesn't have to stop here. We all have email and stuff like that. Paul is our email guru and groups guru, so he can say how that works. I'm not sure exactly how all that works, but a couple of announcements. We have our next Coffeehouse is on Monday, August 24th. And Hobart, who is that with? Is your mute button?
That's with Richard Cook. It's yes. I'm not sure. Go
ahead, Howard.
Go ahead.
I couldn't find my cursor to click.
I see. Yeah, Richard Cook who was spent 21 years as an analyst at U.S. Treasury, had written a book that AMI was selling, and he's going to talk about his history and the monetary. Yeah, there it is. We hold these truths. Terrific book. Right. Concise and clear.
So for the new people, a lot of our. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Howard. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, that's all right. He's going to be here on August 24th, and same time, same place.
Right. A lot of our coffee houses take the form of, we have people who have written papers and books who will come and present their information, and we ask questions. This one is a little different format, but we also have some very interesting new types of coffee houses coming up. Virginia and Lucille are taking the lead on starting a book club where they will pick a book and people will read it. It's always going to be a book on monetary reform. I can guarantee you that. It won't be Oprah's bestseller or anything like that. It'll be something about monetary reform. And then I plan on doing a series.
Bestseller for Oprah. Getting on her list.
And we're also going to do a series of coffee houses on monetary reform position papers. One of our biggest goals at the Alliance is really to attach ourselves with other movements and to make that connection. So for instance, when you just say monetary reform to somebody, they don't know how it connects to the environment. They don't know how it connects to Black Lives Matter. They don't know how it connects to infrastructure improvements. They don't know how it connects to less wars. And so if we can write position papers on those things, and that'll be something that will be publicized in probably over the next 60 days or so. But we're going to have a series of coffee houses where we're actually talking about position papers. It won't be a policy paper. It won't be that specific. But it'll be how the Alliance feels about these things and how they relate to monetary reform and how monetary reform can assist in addressing those problems. So with that, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let Bo Young finish it out. Take yourself off.
Okay. Well, in the last few minutes, how about we'll just do a quick go around so we can hear from everyone. Just say your name again and literally 2 words to describe our time together. So
Gary
saying
King.
3 words. Yes.
Learned a lot.
Leaned in to hear people even though I'm wearing headphones. It didn't make much sense, but that's what I did.
How do we determine order?
Just jump in.
Terrence Brawley, very informative.
David Bean, Fix the Money.
John Glaser, Fresh Looks.
Joe Polito. Joe Polito, thanks so much, Mark Young. You did a great job leading our group.
Shazad Mathani, it was enlightening.
Elenia Moore, Dr. Eckridge, you're right. This was great. That's more than 2.
Well, Mark, I'll go very, very pleased.
Expanding horizons.
Over to get our newsletter.
It's 7 o'clock.
Judith Firster, very sorry I'm busy on the 24th. Got a meeting.
Mike Holden, government money.
Government money.
So keep it simple.
Yes.
Joe, in layman's terms.
Exactly.
Mary Sanderson, hook to what people are already thinking about.
Syed, glad to have discovered this group.
Is that it?
Thank you all.
Wait, I have an announcement.
Twitter workshop.
Wait, I have an announcement. So we have a team forum, a members forum And anybody who's a member can participate. And if for some reason you're a member and you have not gotten an invite, please contact me, because we really got to work with this forum and bounce ideas off of each other. It's a great place to hang out. So
the cost is what, $20 forever?
$20. And if you can't afford us, if you can't afford it, we have ways to help you out.
Exactly.
And if you want to become a member, just go to our website, www.monetaryalliance.org, and you can find lots of resources there, as well as the membership information. Thanks, everybody, and we'll be in touch.
Bye, guys.
Good night.
Everyone have a good night.
Bye.
You all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night, folks.